If you want to be a dairy farmer, southwest Victoria is one of the best places to do it. The fertile volcanic soils and a metre of rain annually make the Corangamite Shire ideal for dairying. The Shire produces more than 20% of the country's milk. Most of its 12 towns are centred around the dairy industry. But dairy's dominance is being challenged by a German company buying land for tree plantations and the carbon market.
They're taking out 5 or 6 farms in the one road.
So we just can't sit back and accept what is happening. We've got to be loud and noisy community together.
If this trend continues, we will get to a point where we might have to import milk.
The cause of this angst is Midway.
Midway is an Australian publicly listed company. We run a plantation management business specialising in carbon, and we export wood fibre.
It started buying farms for German reinsurance giant Munich Re last year and has $200 million to spend over 5 years.
And they see Australia as a really good place to be planting trees, and they recognise the value of the Australian carbon credit system, which the Australian government's put in place and is well regarded globally.
The plantations aren't 30-year hardwood for building, they're for pulp. In 12 years, these blue gum seedlings will be shipped out as wood chips from Midway's Geelong site. Midway has acquired 2,000 hectares and plans to buy another 6,000. Locals accuse Midway of being secretive and aggressive in its land purchasing. Farmers say they often realise their neighbour has sold out when Midway's signs go up. What would you say to criticism that I've heard from the Mayor and a few others, that you're being aggressive, that you're, say, knocking on doors 6 or 7 times and being told, look, I don't want to sell, please go away?
Yeah, so that's completely untrue. There's no pressure, certainly not from any company associated with us.
Do many farmers ring you and say, I'd like to sell?
Interestingly, after there's been this fuss, we have had people contact us and say, we're struggling, we're keen to talk to somebody about selling, the market's not particularly strong, and we've picked up some acquisitions there which have suited the landowner really well.
Go on, buddies. Go on, dudes. There you go. See you for a day. Good girls.
Jamie Vogel's family has a milking herd of 750 cows.
As you lose milk supply, you lose factories, you lose competition.
So you've got 3 factories. If Midway spends all its money, will there be enough milk for 3 factories?
Well, the factories aren't full at the moment. There's empty stainless steel everywhere. Fonterra's already announced they're pulling out, so it's a worry on someone buying that, and that's disastrous for Cobden.
Are you looking at a future with one, do you think?
That would be disastrous. We can see what happens when you've got a monopoly or duopoly.
It's not just the impact on business worrying locals. It's what makes a community.
And we see that here at the football field and the netballers. We are struggling for volunteers as we are, but yet you take more and more people, more families away, then we're going to be struggling for those volunteers as well.
Mayor Kate Macon says the council is hamstrung as it's legal for tree companies to buy farmland, legal for farmers to sell to tree companies, and legal for the deals to be done off-market. Legalities aside, councillors aren't happy.
We were gobsmacked. We were absolutely gobsmacked. We thought, why? How can this be happening? How can the federal and the state government allow this to happen? We still don't have those answers, and I would love to understand why this is happening.
Is council opposed to plantation forestry in the Shire?
We're not opposed to it, we just want it to be done in the right areas at the right times. And at the moment we feel it's just concentrated in one area. Why have it all in one area? Can we not spread the love?
Jamie Vogels is also a councillor. He wants the Foreign Investment Review Board to be more transparent about the conditions attached to its approval for Munich Re's buying spree.
Was there anything in there that they can't target one piece of a community, or was it intention to be spread out over the whole of southwest Victoria? But we don't know. The conditions are confidential.
Stand still, see if you'll suck your finger. Try this one. Just stand still.
Dairy farmers Gary and Lee Hibbard have 6 children. 2 work on farm and others are likely to join the business. They're concerned about the community their children and grandchildren will be living in.
There's no kindergarten if our school goes. There's no childcare. There's no shop. You know, I'm not sure where it'll end, but if there's no population, there's no need for all those services. So it's going to be a pretty bleak old area to live in.
Wow, look at this.
To secure the next generation's future, the Hibbards have spent more than $1 million on a new dairy. Building began before Midway started buying. Now the Hibbards fear the only dairy farms left in 5 years will be 2 or 3 big family farms like theirs and a handful of corporate dairies. To accommodate the next generation, the Hibbards want to expand. But they'll be up against Midway, which is on the clock to finish its greenfield plantation development.
And are you worried that these borders here, that you could wake up one day and find out the next door neighbours have sold to trees?
Well, it's always a worry, yeah. You never know until they're gone.
Would you have bought that land that went into trees?
We tried to buy that, but missed out. Trees already had it bought. We had our finance organised and everything.
Could you have matched the tree money?
Yeah, if we had known. So it's a pretty cutthroat market.
Gary says driving around the district is dispiriting.
And then we go round the back of this. You're going to get a shock from the other road. It looks like a bloody moonscape. These are all dairy farms. So there's 5 in a row there, all gone. One guy owned it all.
Oh, so you think this might be next?
Yeah, they're talking to him.
Right. Up until recently, these paddocks were used for pasture. They've been poisoned to kill weeds and grass, and fences and stock water systems have been removed so the trees can go in.
He's completely surrounded now, and it's probably devalued his farm because who wants to buy a farm that's surrounded by trees?
Shall we jump out and have a look?
Yeah. Absolute disaster from a dairy farmer's point of view.
Will you feel better when the trees have grown up a bit?
Yeah, probably there's some greenery there, but then the whole area's gone. It's the families have gone off these farms. There's nothing we can do about it, you know. Free enterprise is free enterprise. There's talk of a lot more, so yeah, where will it end?
Well, for Gavin Davies, he thinks he'll probably lose his job. His employer, Heytesbury Stock Feeds, recently lost 7 dairy customers who sold their land for tree plantations. With fewer staff needed to run the plantations after they're established, Gavin fears the area will become a jobs desert.
All of a sudden you start turning these small towns into housing commissions because that's where we sort of sit. You know, there's no value here.
Midway's CEO says this is just the start of a new era of plantation forestry in Australia.
I think you'll see more companies, both investment funds and companies with big emission profiles, looking at getting into plantations.
The man who helped design Australia's carbon accounting rules says reducing food production wasn't the intention of the 2011 carbon farming legislation.
The notion that farmers sell land, destock the land, remove agricultural production, a new owner comes in and registers a carbon project is probably a perverse outcome of carbon markets.
Does the legislation need tweaking or overhauling?
I think that needs to be covered, at least in the legislation, that we're not allowing carbon markets to change major land use to food production in a country like Australia. And I think that's where government can step in and say, no, we are not going to allocate Australian carbon credit units if this is land going out of agriculture production. I think that's where the lever is in a free market democracy.
But Midway says its impact won't be as bad as locals fear.
We are only a couple of % of the total land use. If it was really successful dairy country, it'd be staying in dairy, and the stuff that we're buying is stuff where it's more marginal. This paddock here was, I think, most recently in sheep. We really feel that we're an important part of the community, just as the dairy farmers and the sheep farmers and the cattle farmers are.
So you're feeling misunderstood?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
Judging by the turnout at a public meeting, the feeling is mutual.
We've got to make sure that this doesn't repeat itself, and that is my grave concern.
Concern wasn't just about Midway buying on behalf of Munich Re, as days earlier the community was rocked by news that mining mogul Gina Rinehart had paid nearly $10 million for 3 farms for trees.
Hancock that actually own it, not AKD, they're just the ones running it. I've just bought right beside that with absolutely zero idea.
You should reduce your carbon footprint in your own backyard. You shouldn't be able to carbon offset.
They need to stop touching where we get our food from.
The regulator which approved Munich Re's plan was heavily criticised.
The Foreign Review Investment Board, which number one should be looking at food security, should be looking at economic security. They need to get called into Senate estimates.
Unless we say to the current government, you have to make sure that this can't happen again, is that we're going to see overseas superannuation corporations seek to do the same thing.
Federal Liberal MP Dan Tehan says he isn't anti-forestry. His electorate, Wannon, includes one of Australia's major forestry regions, the Green Triangle. He says blue gums have their place, but
the worry here is that we're going to see that balance tilt in a way that isn't in our national interest.
He claims the Foreign Investment Review Board should have denied Munich Re's application on the grounds of national interest. He wants the rules changed.
We don't have a food security policy in Australia. Is this Exhibit A of why we need one?
I think it is, and protecting that food security has to be fundamental, and it should be fundamental for the decisions that are made by the Foreign Investment Review Board.
The Corangamite Council is now lobbying the Victorian government to change land use rules.
I'm seeking that forestry is taken out of the umbrella of agriculture, that it's on its own, that we look at it as its own merit, and also that when plantation companies come to Corangamite or any local government, that they have to apply for a permit to plant their trees.
Who's to say if I'm an ageing dairy farmer and I want to sell my land that we should be introducing new restrictions on who I can sell to or what land uses are appropriate? We are sorry and disappointed that people are feeling concerned about what we're doing, and a lot of that I think is we just need to improve our communications because there's so many positives about what we're doing.
The push to decarbonise Australia has seen an increase in fights about land use and where renewable energy projects and infrastructure should go. Plantation forestry could be the next frontier for conflict.